Now, let's talk about the question of Manch's philosophical anthropology. To a certain extent, Manch's developed a philosophic anthropology. What is it to be human? What is something that distinguishes humans from animals? Manch's position is clear. It is moral competence that distinguishes humans from animals. Human beings can be led to act from pure moral motives. This can be done only when they realize that the capacity for such behavior lies latent within their own individual selves. It is an inborn natural tendency of the human organism. Mencius and Gaozi have a debate on human nature. Gaozi maintains that human nature is that, quote, which is inborn and common to all living things, unquote. The only inborn common propensities of living things are the appetites for food and sex. All else is presumably shaped by environment. Only these common propensities of all living things are internal to humans at birth. All else is internalized by culture out there. Gaozi says that while Ren is internal, righteousness is external. In this context, Gaozi's Ren is not that much broad sense as it is in Analects. It is used to refer to the natural affections closely associated with sexual attraction. Righteousness is used here to refer to the capacity to act correctly in all the complex circumstances of civilized human life. According to Gaozi, it cannot derive from any inner instinct or innate intuitive capacity. It is based on learned rules of behavior that is to be internalized from outside. For instance, we may have a natural affection for elders who are our kin because they are kin. But we have no inborn propensity to respect elders as a class, even though Confucian morality prescribes such respect. Quote, there is an elderly man, and I treat him as an elder with respect. It is not that I have the propensity within myself to treat him as an elder, just as my recognition of the fact that he is white is due to my power to perceive whiteness in him. It is because the whiteness, like the rule of treating elders as elders, comes from without, I recognize him as white, unquote. The rule, treat elders with respect, derives from no inner impulse. It is acquired only from without, maybe through coercion or education. Mencius' response is this. Mencius believes in the objective prescriptions of Li. This he gets from Confucius. He does not doubt that those prescriptions of Li can be learned, but the crucial point is that what is learned is really ours to begin with. The Li are the expressions of a capacity for humanity and righteousness. This capacity is intrinsic to the human organism. What is right is inherent in human nature. In the learning process of human life experiences, this capacity would be activated to bring about moral behaviors. In their debate, Mencius asks Gaozi if the concept of nature is that which is inborn in all living things, the common property shared by all living things, just as all white things are white. To this, Gauss does not object. Mencius continued to ask if saying that all white things are white is the same as saying that man is nothing but an animal, since man shares certain properties with animals. To this, Gauss gives an affirmative reply. Mencius presses on, quote, is the whiteness of a white feather the same as the whiteness of white snow and the whiteness of white jade? End quote. Obviously, they are different from each other. A white feather is different from white snow. They are different from a white jade. Properties do not always help in picking out objects, although they share the same property of whiteness. They are different from each other. Mencius proceeds to ask, quote, is then the nature of the hound the same as the nature of an ox, and the nature of an ox the same as the nature of a man? End quote. Of course not. Although a hound, an ox, and a man share the same nature of biological need for food and sex, they are radically different from each other. The inborn biological properties are not sufficient for us to differentiate a hound from an ox, from a man. So, any properties, whether intrinsic or extrinsic, cannot be used to identify objects. Men and animals are different, although they share something in common. Gauss and his disciples continue to challenge the view that the prescriptions of right behavior could possibly have their source in any innate moral propensity. Quote, if a man from the village is a year older than your elder brother, whom do you respect? End quote, asks a disciple of Gauss. Quote, my elder brother, end quote, replies Mencius' disciple Gong Du-zi. Quote, in filling the cups of wine on ceremonial village occasions, whom do you give precedence to? End quote. Quote again, to the man from the village, end quote. Another quote, the one you truly respect is the former, the one you treat as an elder is the latter. This shows that correct action is external, not internal. End quote. The respect for one's elder brother is an extension of natural familial affection, that is 仁. It is internal. The rule that on certain village occasions, the fact of age itself takes precedence over kinship ties is based on no internal moral impulse. It is simply obedience to a learned external rule. Correct action in a specific situation is external. This is no problem. It is correct to respect one's elder brother on certain occasions. It is also correct to respect the man from the village on other occasions. They are both external actions. Mencius' emphasis is that external actions are rooted in internal moral sense. When you say you respect your elder brother, you are supposed to have a sense of respect for your brother in your heart. If you respect the man from the village, you also need to have a moral sense of doing it. Maybe this time your moral sense is based on moral account. Whatever you do, you cannot do things blindly. You are a moral agent. Your moral act issues from your moral understanding. Mencius claims that moral understanding is an innate capacity. This innate capacity distinguishes humans from animals. Mencius describes the innate moral capacity in terms of a fourfold potentiality from the beginning. In the actual growing individual, this fourfold potentiality manifests itself as the so-called four beginnings, 四端. They are the four spontaneous dispositions of feeling which are present in the child from the beginning. They remain latently present in the corrupted adult. If properly nourished and if unblocked by impediments, such feelings will grow plant-like into the full maturity of the four cardinal moral sentiments. The four cardinal moral sentiments constitute the fully actualized human nature. They are spontaneous and intuitive and reflective and uncalculating when they are not impeded. They are dispositional acts. The four sentiments are specified as the sentiment of compassion, that is, the inability to bear the suffering of others, the sentiment of shame, the sense of courtesy and deference, and the sense of what is right and wrong in given life situations. If all these dispositions are allowed to achieve their full development, they will be realized into the four cardinal virtues. Compassion matures into humanity, 人. The sense of shame matures into the virtue of righteousness, 义, in all life situations. The sense of courtesy and deference matures into the spirit of 礼, and the ability to make intuitive moral judgments leads to true moral knowledge, 智. The four cardinal virtues are ultimately one, though one can think of them separately as intimately related aspects of the good. The first virtue of humanity is clearly illustrated in the famous example of the infant on the brink of falling into a well. Any human being, no matter how corrupted or dulled by the habits of an unworthy life, will feel a spontaneous and calculating impulse to snatch the child away from the well. Quote, not because he wants to get into the good graces of the parents, not because he wishes to win the praises of his fellow villagers or friends, nor because he disliked the cry of the child. End quote. The virtue of humanity is expressed through the dispositional act of saving the child from falling into the well. Similarly, other virtues can also be expressed through dispositional acts. Dispositional acts are used as indicators to show human nature. This is consistent with Daoist view as is discussed in Laozi and Zhuangzi. As a matter of fact, In the real world, not all human acts are dispositional acts. Doyle's solution is that all the non-dispositional acts are to be removed from the human world. They want to change status quo in a radical way. If this is impossible, they would be withdrawn from the actual world. Facing this situation, Mencius tries to make clear how dispositions are hampered and what to do to reinstate the world of dispositions. When dispositions are reinstated, human nature will be illumined. Mencius believes that what deflects or blocks the nature from its natural trajectory is an evil social-political environment. The parable of Ox Mountain seems to illustrate this point. The trees on Ox Mountain are constantly being cut down by axes, and new shoots are constantly being devoured by sheep and oxen. Yet the shoots continue to sprout, and the mountain continues to be bald and desolate. For ordinary people, the shoots of virtue are constantly being cut down by the economic sufferings and constant warfare brought about by harsh and ruthless rulers. The shoots of goodness in the rulers are also blocked, although they enjoy all the creature comforts. Maybe the parable of Ox Mountain is meant to refer to the rulers. Quote, "Do not be puzzled by the king's lack of wisdom. Even a plant that grows most readily will not survive if it is placed in the sun for 1 day and exposed to the cold for 10. End quote. We can guess that the cold winds to which the king is exposed are his sycophant quarters and evil advisors. Maybe Mencius himself represents the 1 day of warm sun. The ancient sage kings found that, quote, "if they are well fed and have warm clothing and are comfortably lodged and are not taught, then they are close to beasts." End quote. From this, we see that the impediments to the growth of the plant of goodness are not simply external to the organism. There somehow resides within the human organism itself a disordering principle. This principle, in application, would block the tendency to the good. What then is the nature of this principle, and how is it overcome?